Tonight is July the 7th, and I welcome everyone that's here and out in the audience for the collective committee meeting. And tonight we're going to have something a little bit different, just to give everybody a heads up. There's going to be a collective committee meeting. Then after that, there's going to be a special council meeting. At the end of the special council meeting, there's going to be an executive session. And at that point, the doors will close. It'll just be the elected officials and who else Mr. Mayor is going to be bringing in. There will be no votes during that time. Then we will reopen the doors at the end, and we will be adjourning. Okay? So we're going to start right out with the Finance Committee with Mr. Zuber, the chair.
Thank you, Madam President. The only item we have is the fire department replacement vehicle. Based on the conversation that we had at the Finance Committee meeting earlier, we're going to get some more information from the chief on that, on the purchase of that new vehicle, based on some comments from the committee and the mayor. So I'm sure that we'll have more discussion on this next week.
Thank you. Any comments or questions for Mr. Zuber? Okay. Mr. Zuber, anything else from your committee?
No, that's it.
Thank you. Now we're going to go on to Public Safety and Health Committee with Mr. Cause.
Thank you, Madam President. I have one item to discuss, and that is the one-day permit to sell, disperse, and consume beer, wine, and hard seltzer-type beverages at the Beer Fest on August 23rd, 2025 at Miller Road Park, hosted by the Avon Lake Boosters. And this is an annual event that is held at Miller Road Park. And today we have the new head of the Boosters, Miss Erin Schaefer, who's in attendance tonight. And she wants to tell us a little bit more about this year's event. And we'll talk about the piece of legislation that we are going to have next week and for the one-day liquor license permit. So I'd like to ask Ms. Schaefer to please come on up to the podium.
Ms. Schaefer, come on up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Again, introduce yourself and see that you're front. Thank you.
Thank you for having me this evening. My name's Erin Schaefer. I'm the Executive Director of the Avon Lake Athletic Boosters. The Avon Lake Athletic Boosters is a nonprofit organization. We raise monies to help support the sport programs at the high school and middle school level for Avon Lake. And this year we're asking for a one-day permit to sell, dispense, and consume beer, wine, and hard seltzer at Avon Lake Beer Fest, August 23rd, 2025 at Miller Road Park. This is our annual event. It's a big fundraiser. It brings in a lot of people to Avon Lake. It's well loved by the community. There's food trucks and bands, and everybody looks forward to it every year. So
Keeps getting bigger and bigger, doesn't it?
it does.
Are there any comments or questions for Ms. Schaefer? Mr. Cos?
Yeah, I'll just add that I did speak to Chief Robinson today, and he had no concerns with this. I mean, obviously, we would normally take this through the committee first, but because of the type timeline that we're on with our summer break coming up, we brought it straight to the collective committee meeting. I did speak to Chief Robinson. Like I said, there were no concerns. I don't think that there's ever been an issue at any of these, and I think this is like the 6th or 7th year. So they do a really good job of policing their own, and the Avon Lake Police also do a great job of the handling the event as well too. It's very well run. They run a very clean operation there. The cooperation that they have with the municipal bodies, whether it's the service department or the police department, is really well done. And Erin being the new person onto this, I know she's going to pick up that legacy that her predecessors had, and she'll carry that on. But it's in years past what we've had to do with this for the state to issue that. We have to pass an ordinance permitting it. So unless there are objections from members of council, I plan to bring this as an ordinance. It is in the packet. A copy of it is in our packet. I'm going to bring this next week for suspension of rules and emergency passage.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Cos? Yes, Mr. Smith.
Yeah, the only thing I would like to say is that, as I understand it, the hours, so that everybody knows, is from 12 to 8
Yes, thank
on
you.
that Saturday. Certainly, thank you.
We did extend the hours this year from, it was 1 to 7. We are now 12 to 8.
Still light up.
Still light out.
Any further questions? Mr. Mayor?
No question, just a comment. I want to thank the Athletic Boosters for, again, putting this on. It's a great community event. As Mr. Kaz said, it's very well run. There's never any issues. People really enjoy it. They get to sample the beers and the wine, and it's a great fundraiser, which of course the money goes to our scholar athletes at the high school. So you can't beat it. It's well run. We look forward to it. We meet with them several times before the event just to make sure we're all on the same page, and it's run very well. So I thank you.
Yes, we're grateful for the partnership.
I do have a question. Is there a rain date?
No, rain or shine.
Rain or shine? Okay. Very good. Anything else, Mr. Cos?
Nope, that is all.
Thank you for coming in this evening.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on now to Public Service Committee, which I chair. I have 3 items. The first one is submerged land lease at 31954 Lake Road. And there's a resolution that's needed by the city of Avon Lake, and it's required by the Ohio Department of Natural Resources and the Army Corps of Engineers for a shore structure. And basically what it is stating that the city of Avon Lake does not have a need in the future. They don't perceive that they have a need in the future for any type of improvements, such as a breakwater, harbor, marina, pier, etc., at that particular location. And in checking with Mr. Leskovic, and he's down here, you can speak toward it, but we talked about it before at the Public Service Committee meeting. There wasn't any need for the city at this address. Is that correct, sir?
That is correct.
So I'm looking forward to putting this on Monday, which is the 14th, for suspension of the rule in emergency passage so that they can get together and they can start constructing it if it should be passing. Any comments on this particular item with my colleagues? Seeing none, you have their plans in your packet. We will move on. The next item are amendments to Chapter 1018, the City Tree Ordinance and Codified Ordinance Section 1065.99, Enforcement and Penalty. And basically what has occurred is that every January, the city, in order to keep up with the Tree City USA designation, needs to perform a couple things. And one is a review of the ordinances. And back in January of 2024, 2 of us had just graduated from the Trees Academy with the state, and we saw where there needed to be compliance issues. There needed to be items that were added here to go along with what the Division of Forestry needed. Now there's 3 more tree commissioners that are taking the course, and what they have pointed out to us are the following. First, there needs to be some definitions, which you'll all see in red. Secondly, anytime that the word municipality comes up, that's been now changed to city. That's the new way of putting together ordinances. And then further down, it's going to speak to the duties of the urban forester. And then as you move on, the master tree plan, it points out what those are. It's going to talk about planting of trees, shrubs, and hedges. And of course, these are on public-owned property. Excuse me. It talks about the pruning of trees, and it talks about what a menace to the public might be, and that you don't want to have a tree going across a sidewalk or prohibiting you from seeing a stop sign, for example. And the cutting off of trees is prohibited. That's part of the state standards. And a big one has to do with oak trees. We have a lot of maple and a lot of oak throughout the city of Avon Lake. And I'm going to read this particular paragraph. It says, no oak trees or chestnut trees, which are in the oak family, shall be cut, trimmed, or removed from April 1st through December 1st to prevent the further spread of oak wilt, unless deemed necessary or hazardous after review by the urban forester or an emergency exists affecting public health or safety. We have oak wilt here in our community, and you'll notice if you have an oak tree that very rapidly loses its leaves and then begins to lose its limbs. It's oak wilt, and it's in the 45 area right now, and I know that people are aware of it, and they are avoiding pruning of the oak tree. So I just want to bring that one up. There's a section about abuse and mutilation of public trees, and that's been brought up to date with today's language. Protection of trees near construction work. And you'll see a lot of red on your paper here. What has been brought up to date is probably about 20 years old. We just haven't done it in our city. This is going to go with the ANSI 300 standards and also the ISA, the International Arbor Association's standards. And then it goes into the enforcement penalty area. And this is probably the area that the law department and, just a moment, and law department and the tree commissioner spent the most time on. And when I say the most time, probably 6 months on. So the way that the state has changed that penalty section goes back to 1973. I'm going to say that again. The state changed the penalty section in 1973, and we're just now changing it. And I'm going to read what today's standard is. It says, underneath enforcement and penalty, whoever violates any of the provisions of this chapter is guilty of a minor misdemeanor and shall be fined up to 3 times market rate value of the former tree and $1,000 for each offense. And then it goes down to enforcement penalty. This would be the landscape contractors. And it says the urban forester, as defined in 101803, or public works director or other persons having jurisdiction hereof, which might be the utility company, for example, may issue citations to any person who fails to comply with the provisions of this chapter. Whoever violates any of the provisions of this chapter shall be fined $1,000 for each offense and shall be liable for a mitigation fee equal to or up to 3 times the market value of the damaged or destroyed tree to be deposited into the Avon Lake Tree Fund. A separate offense shall be deemed committed for every 7 days of continued violation. And the first hand I saw up for a question was for Ms. Gentry.
Yeah, I was looking at 101807, page 7.
Could you put on your microphone, please?
Sorry. I was looking at 101807, pruning or removal of trees on private property.
Yes.
And then it says that the city shall remove all public trees or portions of trees.
What number are you at underneath 07?
A.
Okay.
It reads to me, that title kind of indicates that the city's taking care of private trees. Is that, I don't think that's the intent, but.
Well, the intent is that if a public tree is on oversees a private property, or if a private tree oversees a public property, either way, that tree can be maintained. That a tree can, for example, I'm going to give you an example. If resident A has a tree that is over top of a sidewalk and people are getting bumped by it as they go by, or it looks like it's going to fall into the street, right? Then the community development department with the property maintenance would go out and they would say, hey, that tree has an issue. To determine if the tree is diseased, they would need to go to the urban forester who would say, hey, that tree is diseased, and a notice would be given. That is the only time on private property that the city would get involved. Now, on the other side of it, if the city has a tree in the tree lawn, which is the part of the right-of-way, right, and it's overseeing the front yard of somebody's house, and it looks like a limb is going to be coming down, that individual needs to get a hold of the city and say, hey, you need to take care of your tree over here that's on the right-of-way. Or let's say it's by Safety Services Center and they share a perimeter with a home. So those issues between the city and private property need to be resolved. And this shows you how.
Okay.
And that's a good question. Any other questions? Okay, the intent is to have this be our first reading on the 14th, and it will be up for 3 reads. Okay, we'll move on. The next item is Walker Road Phase 5, which is more road to the railroad tracks, and is to go into a rebid. Now, why are we doing a rebid? We already had it out for a bid, and the state of Ohio says that if the bid comes in 20% higher than the estimated amount that the city engineer stated it was going to be, that you're not allowed to accept it. It has to be rebid. Today we are discussing it. We're going to have the bids in on the 11th, so we will then know. Is it the 10th, John? It's the 10th. I'm sorry, it's on Thursday the 10th. So by the 11th, the city engineer will have had time to review it, to see if they followed the bid specs, number one. Number two, if it's a qualified bid. and if it's within what the state allows us to go with. And the intent is to get this on to whoever it is, whoever wins the bid. Hopefully somebody will be winning, a company will be winning, to get it onto the agenda for Monday the 14th so that we can vote on it, so they can start that work to have to have shovels in the ground this year. Mr. Liskovec, is there anything else you'd like to add to this? I'm going to have you turn on your microphone.
Yeah, I think the only other thing too is pressing with, obviously, opening of bids and review and an award of a contract. We do have funding from Ohio Public Works Commission, and I forget off the top of my head the total amount, but we have some grant funding from them and some zero interest loan funding that's part of this project. So
It's a little over $400,000 between the grant and the loan.
right. So obviously, we want to be able to award this with consideration that with the first attempt, we would have loved to have that award happen then, but we will still want to be able to get this awarded, executed, and then into construction before the end of, and so that we would have time before the end of construction season to see the whole project through.
Any questions for Mr. Liskovec? Seeing none, okay, thank you. Then we're going to move on then to our short-term rentals ad hoc committee with Mr. Arnold.
Thank you. We had a recent meeting on short-term rentals here in Avon Lake through the short-term rental ad hoc committee with myself, Amy Gentry, and David Koss. Last week, we discussed a moratorium on any new short-term rentals here in Avon Lake. This wouldn't affect any current rentals in Avon Lake, short-term rentals, but it would be of any new for just a 90-day period. Mr. Koss, I don't know if you have any additional comments on this since you're sponsoring the legislation.
Yes, thank you. As Mr. Arnold said, on tonight's agenda for the special committee meeting, we do have this up for a second reading, and I'll be asking for a suspension of the rules and for passage tonight on the moratorium. A few things have changed since we had the first reading on this. Actually, quite a few things have changed. The first being what Mr. Arnold said, that we had a very in-depth and very, very good meeting with a framework for a piece of legislation that I hope is going to be coming up for a first reading sooner than later. But it really gave us a foundation that we're going to be able to put something together. We had a very good ad hoc committee meeting that is going to put together a good piece of legislation coming before the public soon. This is a companion piece, is the way that I see this, in that while that is being presented and written and being brought forward for the reading process, this moratorium, which would go into effect for 90 days, which is different than the 6 months that was originally going to be asked for in the first reading, would allow for a pause on any new short-term rentals that would come in. And what we put in here is the language that's going to be up for a vote tonight, is the language that is in the new short packet that everybody on council and up here received just before the meeting, not the one in the full thick packet. It's got a yellow tab on it. That's the one that we're going to be voting on tonight, and that includes the language that it talks about it being a 90-day moratorium, or upon passage of the short-term rental properties ordinance. So either or. If the short-term rental property ordinance passes when we first come back in August or shortly thereafter, well before the 90 days, and the moratorium goes away. So they're tied to it. So those are the two kind of really big changes on that. I'm going to be asking for suspension of the rules tonight on this, for this special meeting. We have a couple of members of council that may not be able to attend next week's final meeting of council. And in order to give all 7 members the opportunity to vote yes or no on the moratorium, I'm going to be asking for a suspension of the rules tonight. And I'll be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Koss? Thank you, Mr. Koss. Mr. Arnold, is there anything else that you'd like to add about perhaps the direction that the short-term rental ordinance is going in? I know that you're working with the administration on this at this point.
Other than, like Mr. Koss said, we had a meeting last week. It was a very good meeting we kind of ironed out a lot of the, we had a piece of draft legislation that was put together. We had comments on it, we had questions on it, and that has been sent forward over to the law director for his comment. There are some concerns about what we have in place right now, but I think they can be ironed out before passage of this legislation.
Thank you. Any comments? Yes, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, how long do we think until we're gonna be able to have the actual short-term rental ordinance in place?
I think there's two parts to it. Part of it's the law, and the other part of it has to do with the administration and the department that it's going to be in.
Madam President, I would mention that we drafted it. We've done a couple of these for other cities, so it's really a matter of, as far as the depth and how specific the city of Avon Lake wants to get. One example is a number of short-term rentals that are allowed in certain districts, in certain areas. So that's something that we need to have some discussion or some input back to me, I guess, so I could take a look at that, because we've done that as far as areas that there's limits the number of short-term rentals. There's actually some cities who have waiting lists for short-term rentals to make sure that you don't have an overabundance of them. And most of those are cities that abut the lake or have lake access.
And then, Mr. Mayor, there's some discussion right now about what department will be reviewing these, which you'll need to have a discussion with Mr. Arnold on.
Right, we've kind of been discussing that. It'll involve several departments, but we'll have a lead department that will take the applications in and process them.
So the question comes up, do you believe there's going to be something before us when we come back from break or before we go to on break?
You asking me?
No, I'm asking the mayor and the law director.
Well, you mean for legislation?
Yes, sir.
Right, Gary.
I would say after break, so at least if you have any comments to get it before the break, so we can plug it in there before, to have it finalized, and when you come back from break. At this point in time, I would think there's some issues that need to be given some thought. Who's gonna oversee it, like the mayor said, but also if you're gonna limit the number in the city. And
August the
restrictions that can
25th.
be, right,
Then August the 25th.
yes.
So, Mr. Arnold, August the 25th?
Yes, I spoke to Tom Carlton a few hours before I came here. He's the chief building officer, and he had some concerns about it. I think we need more time to kind of dive into this. I don't really see a reason for first reading next week if we have to wait 6 weeks for a second reading. I think that, to me, it's best to kind of, if we can get through things over the summer, talk to the administration about what their needs are and what they need, and talk with Tom Carlton again. I think it's best just to start fresh in late August, but that's just my own opinion. Thanks.
I can support that, sir. Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Cos?
Yeah, I would support that as well, too. I hope that we could have a first reading when we come back at our first meeting after break and have the entire summer for the administration to do their reviews on it and tweak the framework that we have put together. Thank you.
Ms. Gentry? Oh, okay. Mr. Smith?
So was it Mr. Carlton's opinion that we needed to put the moratorium in place?
No, he didn't have anything. He had no comment on that at all. I think that the point of the moratorium is, as the law director pointed out, is that there's been some concerns about some different neighborhoods that may have more than one Airbnb pop up. Just for discussion purposes, we didn't talk about having a limit on Airbnbs here in Avon Lake, but we did have a discussion about how many Airbnbs are within either 1,000 feet or 6 feet, or, sorry, 6 houses. So there wasn't a limit of any particular number of Airbnbs in Avon Lake. But no, it wasn't. Tom Carlson didn't have any comment on the moratorium.
Thank you.
Any further discussion by anybody? Oh, Mr. Mayor, yes.
Thank you. I don't see any issue in getting this draft completed by the 25th. Some of the issues that we're looking at are regulation issues for the permitting. We don't want them to be in contrary to Ohio Building Code. We want to make sure that we're going to be doing that right. So that is the delay in looking at those.
And the other thing that came up out of our meeting was and this is something that Ms. Gentry is looking at through her committee, is possibly adopting the International Property Maintenance Code. And it's very specific. It's an updated nationally recognized code, and that might be something that might be of assistance. So I think during the summertime, the staff and the administration can work that out. Okay? Very good. Then we're going to move on then to Planning Commission. Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Madam President. Planning Commission met last Tuesday, which is why I didn't get this here at the end of the ad hoc meeting on the Airbnbs. They had a couple cases that were in front of them, 2 right-of-ways. One was for Mr. Calabrese, who's here, for Electric Boulevard. And Madam President, if you want to explain that, since you're going to be the one.
Sure, I'd be
doing
happy
that.
to. Mr. Smith has a conflict of interest on this particular one, so that's why I'm going to be sponsoring it. So everybody put their thinking caps on and put your head at Miller Road and Lake. And as you're driving south, the very first street on the right is Electric Boulevard, and that's where the animal clinic would be on the south side. If you drive all the way to the very dead end, right now that's what it is, a dead end. And Mr. Calabrese, who owns the properties to the right, it'd be the north side, be the area that was previously considered to be possibly a parking lot for the animal clinic. He has purchased that, and he and Smuggler's Cove would like the city to vacate that very end of Electric Boulevard, so the Smuggler's Cove would receive half of the property, and Mr. Calabrese would receive half of it, and he would incorporate it into a new home. So this application, as Mr. Smith stated, came before planning at their July 1st Planning Commission meeting, and it was voted on unanimously, with Mr. Smith abstaining, to recommend to City Council to approve the vacation. And this will be on emergency passage on Monday. Mr. Calabrese is ready and willing to get the shovel in the ground and get moving on this particular project. Are there any questions? Mr. Calabrese is in the audience if you have further questions about the property.
I just,
Ms. Gentry?
my only question is the emergency request suspension of rules and all this, is that normal for just regular business?
This isn't a business, you mean, are we doing?
Just our regular council business? I'm concerned that we keep suspending our rules.
Right, so if we don't do this, and if you're gonna go with 3 readings, Mr. Calabrese, who's been trying to get a shovel in the ground since November, won't be able to get one in until the autumn. And he has plans for a home. And there's financial, banking issues. He has requested that we do suspension of the rule.
I understand.
Emergency passage.
So emergency is typically for health, safety, and welfare?
And it's
Does
for
that
his.
qualify? Okay,
It's for
I
his-
just want to make
yes,
sure.
Right. It's for his health, safety, and welfare. So right now he's at a home, and he's going to be building another home. And so he would have to hold off in building. And I'm going to move it over to the law director if there's anything additional that you'd like to add.
No, unless the city has a use for that property. It's going to be obviously become productive property as far as the property taxes and things of that nature. And this is normally suspension of the rules unless there's an issue the city has 2 people wanting or adjacent to the property. So there's no reason not to have suspension for this type of, especially situation. He's got a house he wants to build on it. We did have some discussion concerning value, and I can just go a little bit on that.
If you want.
If I'd like to. I've said in most cities, it's, they're vacated, they have no use for it. So they give the property, they transfer the property to the owner. Because the property is non-productive property right now, it's going to become productive property. There are some cities who charge a fee for that associated with it. But I could make the argument, well, you charge me a fee if I leave it alone, it's got no value. We're getting some value by the increase in the property being adjacent to the property it's being built on. So that's the sort of the philosophy back of not charging. But there are cities who do charge a fee, a slight fee or a slight appraisal, because most of these properties are not useful for the city. They're not buildable unless they're adjacent to another parcel.
And then what will happen, and I see your hand, Mr. Collins, just a moment. So what will happen if this should be passed on the 14th is that the city engineer would then register it with the counties so that he could move forward. Mr. Cos?
Yeah, thank you. You'd mentioned that the Smugglers Cove Association, they didn't have any concerns with this? They were okay with this?
They were completely supportive, that's absolutely correct.
Okay, and they had a representative, I'm assuming, at the meeting, or at least
They
submitted
had
something?
They had several of them
Okay.
at the meeting.
Okay, that's
Which
good
is-
enough for
were
me.
there 6
Thank
other
you.
people or 4 other people that were here?
One spoke, I can't remember.
One spoke, but there were
Four.
four. They were well represented. Anybody else? Good questions. Okay, then we will move on. Mr. Smith, anything else?
Yes, thank you. And my conflict was the fact that I actually own a place in Smugglers Cove, just so everybody knows. And I'll be asking for a motion to abstain at that meeting. Yeah, we also had a vacation of Shields Avenue and Electric Boulevard in the vicinity of that one for the Utilities Department. That's in the packet. I have not heard from the Utilities Department about whether they need that done post haste or not, or if there is indeed an emergency. So at this point, I only plan on asking for just the first reading. But I may hear from them with the break coming up.
If I,
Mr. Law
if
Director.
I may, Mr. Smith, I will call Mr. Monroe tomorrow and find out what the timing is for that. It's
Okay.
required, it's actually for their expansion that they're doing over there.
Right.
I'll
We
find out
recently
tomorrow.
passed a similar type of
Yes.
thing.
I'm assuming they would want to suspension of the rules because before you go on recess, because they're expanding their plant. And this is one of the parcels they're expanding on, but I'll verify that.
Yeah, I haven't heard from them, so.
And then,
All right.
Mr. Ebert, you'll let Valerie, you'll let all of us know, but also copy Valerie on it? Thank you. Mr. Smith?
Yeah, 2 more things to discuss.
Sure.
One is Pulte Homes came before Planning Commission regarding Harbor Crest Townhomes, which is the subdivision that's being put up behind the old Dairy Queen. And that was tabled by the Planning Commission for the reasons outlined in the memorandum from Kelly LaRosa that's attached to your packet. There were several questions, particularly about alignment of that street that's coming out with the Huntington Bank actually be their entranceway. So, and that would have caused moving of the retention basin that's there. So we have to, they're gonna go back and take a look at it. They asked for it to be tabled, and we'll be hearing back from them, I imagine, in our our August meeting of the Planning Commission. And the last thing I wanted to, the last thing I wanted to bring up was Pulte Homes relative to the connection over to Hanford, the subdivision over there. I have asked to put that back on as a final plat for the Portside Townhouse subdivision. I've asked that to be put back on for a second reading. I will be asking again for a suspension of the rules as well as passage emergency for the reasons that we've outlined before relative to being able to sell homes and for people to get mortgages. And again, in light of the fact that we're going to have a couple people missing. So I was hoping that we'll be able to pass that. So I'm happy to take any questions on either one of those.
Are there any questions for Mr. Smith about either of those items? The one that has been tabled, they're looking at coming back to Planning Commission. And then the other one has to do with a Portside subdivision, the final plat, which later on tonight will be on the special. Any questions from anybody? Okay, then we'll move on. Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. Other business, I'm going to turn this over to Law Director Gary Ebert and our Council Clerk Valerie Rossmarin. Everybody's going to have a little insight into what Valerie and Mr. Ebert have been working on for the past year.
I brought some samples to go through.
I would defer to Valerie. She's had the conversations. We've worked very hard together on my office and her to try to bring this up to date as far as where we're at with the code. It's been a long process.
Right. And it all started when I first became clerk of council. I started to read the code. I noticed some inconsistencies, some errors, and working with our publisher, American Legal, I was told that we could recodify it to clean it up. And apparently the city had a different codifier back in the 70s, Justinian, and when they sold or maybe closed their offices, American Legal acquired our code in the early 2000s. All they did was take it. They didn't recodify it. So that's probably the reason some of these inconsistencies existed. So when I discovered this and I brought it to council, we put it in the budget back in 2019. The project started in 2020, COVID hit. So then the project was suspended. We didn't restart it until 2022. And the process was a matter of going through the codes, each section, submitting to each department, this is your code section, tell me what's wrong, where are there inconsistencies, and then we put them all together, presented them to American Legal, and they brought us back with, their report and recommendations, their editorial report, which I gave each council member some excerpts, only 10 pages, but there's certainly more. And so the law director and I went through them page by page and kind of took sections apart. Some areas where there was some rework would be the boards and commissions to make them all consistent, where there's a membership, all the categories were the same, they were reworked, and also to have them alphabetically as opposed to just thrown in. So I think once we responded to their edits and their notes, and we asked them to make some changes in various sections. They provided us with a draft, which then we had to review it to make sure everything was incorporated as we wanted or taken out. And then that happened November 24 is when we were able to finally get that to American Legal. And then in March of this year, they submitted and gave us our books. So now council is at the process where they have to review it and have it adopted. Some of the things, even when I got the books back, if you see, I have a couple of things that they did not incorporate. So there's still some work in progress involved. And we have the code book with everything. And then for the commission, planning zoning board and planning commission, they get their separate books. So I think that's part of that's the whole process and project. And I'm hoping that I'll hand these all out to council before your break, and then you can take a look at it. And when we come back, we can.
You can be back by the end of the break. You should be.
We could adopt it sometime in the fall. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you notice or come upon. But as I said I kind of gave each council member a little synopsis of exactly what the scope of the work was and the actions that were taken. And I don't know if Mr. Ebert would like to share anything else.
There's been a lot of work put in this, going back and
Yes.
forth. Extremely a lot of work
Yes.
of it, because it hasn't been done in so many years.
Yes.
And when the other company either went out of business or didn't do it, we got behind as far as
Right.
with American Legal to try to actually keep it up to date on an annual basis.
Right, and it's not perfect, that's why there's still some work in progress, but I think once we get it adopted and then we get on a regular routine where any amendments, like your tree commission, we deliver it to American Legal,
Legal, they
get the
probably-
supplements and research. American Legal, just for everyone's information, the online copy is accurate, it's this book, it's whenever there is amendment, they pretty much put that on within months, and it will be dated. You can see when it is.
So everybody has seen how their formatting has been changed over the time, right? Because we're all working on ordinances out of each of our committees. And if you take a look at all the books that are in front of Mrs. Ross Marin, she's doing this while she's doing all the rest of our work. Mr. Cos.
Yeah, thank you. Tremendous work, Valerie, tremendous work. What again were you going to supply council with as far as a copy?
So this, you'll get an actual hardcover book, one of these.
Okay.
And this is the entire code
Okay.
that includes the planning and
Okay,
zoning.
okay. Can I have just my copy here to review?
Oh, yes,
I mean,
yes. You can
I'm
come.
just thinking about the manpower hours, the paper, and all of that. I'd be more than happy to come up here and review that rather
It
than have.
already exists. I have copies.
Okay,
For every
I
one
don't
of you.
need the whole thing. I'll come
Okay.
up here and
It's
look
already
at it.
done.
I already
Mr.
have
Cos.
them.
Okay,
I mean,
great.
it's part of the codification. Everyone gets a copy.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate it, but I will consider the
Okay.
house copy my copy. Thank you.
Okay. And just, I dug through some of my records. This is the one from Justinian, way back when. This is my code that I acquired when I first became clerk, and then these are the new ones. Just
a
wanted
few
to
more.
identify
more.
what all these things are. Yes.
Any further comments, colleagues? Thank you. Tremendous work, as has been said. Appreciate it. Okay, that brings us now to another part, far down to legislation. And as everybody knows, the CCM, the Collective Committee meeting, is here to prepare for the council meeting that would be for next week. Third readings. Ordinance number 25-112. It's an ordinance enacting codified ordinance chapter 1470 demolition. Ms. Gentry, is there anything that you want to add on this one? Any comments?
Nothing to add, just anxious to get it over the end line.
And you've worked on it a long time.
Yes, with Mr. Ebert and Amelia from his law
Tremendous
firm.
work,
It's
too.
been
Yes,
been
thank you.
a lot of work.
Any questions for Ms. Gentry? All right, we'll move along then to ordinance number 25-113. You're back at your seat. Do you want to read by title only?
An ordinance amending codified ordinance chapter 1438, licensing of contractors defined, and codified ordinance chapter 1468, unsafe buildings.
Ms. Gentry, any further discussion?
This is a companion to the demolition, just updating to make them, make all the changes that are required for the demolition ordinance.
Thank you. Any further questions by her colleagues? All right. By ordinance number 25-116.
An ordinance amending codified ordinance chapter 220, council.
Yes, this is the one that outlines the council procedures, and we've been talking about it for a number of weeks. We finally got to the third reading, and those that are out in the audience will be happy to know that that audience participation will happen at the beginning of the meetings, so you don't have to wait to the very end before you speak. That's one of the changes that's there. Are there any further comments from my colleagues? Seeing none, then we will move on now to second readings. Ordinance number 25-128 by title only.
An ordinance approving the final plat for Portside Townhouse subdivision and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Smith, is there any further discussion on this one?
Thank you. We discussed that during the collective committee meeting. Again, I'm bringing it back here in order to try and see to it that it gets passed tonight relative to allowing the folks that need to be able to get their properties titled to them, add to our tax base. And
Right.
I'd
And one of the things,
appreciate council's consideration on that.
thank you. And one of the things I think that council needs to be aware of is that when you're looking at the planning and zoning code, and you'll see Ms. LaRosa's report after every planning commission meeting, she states there what the next steps are. And I'm going to read what she has here for the Pulte homes. She says this application will be forwarded to the City Council for consideration at its next scheduled meeting. So it's handled a little bit differently than our regular business. And so when we ask for suspension of the rule and emergency passage, we are following truly the Planning Commission's rules. And maybe that's something that we need to look at the next review between the Planning Commission and Council's regular rules. Any further discussion? Mr. Shamir, please.
The purpose of declaring an emergency is to issue documentation so that the properties can be sold, if I understand. Is that correct?
That's my understanding. Then the taxes can start being collected on them.
Now, I see it that it's on the agenda for tonight, and what would have been the difference between tonight and Monday, a week?
The difference was that this would get a second reading in before next Monday. And next Monday, we're gonna be short council members. So that's why I wanted to bring it here tonight, so that the whole council hears it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So that the public understands, suspension of the rule means that it's going to occur right away. Emergency passage means that it would go into effect right after the mayor and council president would sign it, which is typically the next day. If it doesn't have an emergency paragraph in it, then it would go into effect 30 days later. So that's what the difference is. Anything else, Mr. Smith?
No, Madam Chairman, thank you.
Very good. Ordinance number 25-130, which is 130R. Mrs. Ross Marin.
An ordinance imposing a moratorium on the use of residential property for short-term rental and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Cos.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate that the purpose for asking for the suspension of the rules tonight is, as been stated previously with the previous ordinance and also in my discussions earlier, is because I'm anticipating a possible couple of absences at the final meeting before recess, and this will give all 7 members of council an opportunity to vote on this. And that's the purpose for the suspension of the rules tonight, rather than waiting one more week. Thank you.
Right, it's always good to have everybody's input. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Smith?
Thank you. After the discussion tonight and listening to the council discussion relative to the moratorium and its need, and knowing that the other ordinance should be in place by when we return, I will go ahead and support that moratorium. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion on any of these legislation? If not, we're at the point in time where it comes out to be for public input. And you can speak on any topic, not just what's on the agenda tonight. Come on up, thank you, and give us your name and the city that you live in.
Hi, Paul Orlowski, 32066 Hanford Boulevard. I'm speaking in reference tonight to item 25-128 regarding the approval on second reading, it's going to happen, of the final plat plan for the Portside development, which I absolutely and my folks have no problem with at all. As I've said in the past, Pulte has been very, very cooperative with us on both visual mounting that is currently going in, as far as money for a gate. I do have a problem, though, with the lack of attention, at least so far, by the administration to the very thoughtful request at the last meeting of Mr. Zuber to get some money numbers about this gate. It was kind of summarily dismissed, as I saw it at the last meeting by the mayor. He requested Mr. Zuber requested cost numbers on the gate, which Pulte has already pledged $15,000 for. And a very cursory look at all these companies that provide these gates, do a real nice gate with safety equipment, and the automatic for safety forces for way less than $15,000. So far, all we have from the administration, the mayor, is an unimaginable scenario of putting up a dangerous chain, as our resident, Mr. Canonico, pointed out in a previous meeting. Very dangerous. He's no rookie. It's from his 30-plus years experience as a personal injury litigator. Don't do it. Mr. Zuber requested some cost estimates. I hope to hear them maybe at the regular council meeting coming up, or certainly at some time. Or is he being ignored the way that we feel that we are being ignored? Finally, a deal is a deal. You have an agreement, a memorandum of understanding to put up a gate within 30 days of the completion of the connection. The connection is complete. It's been complete for months now. No matter how you change the English language to suit your purposes, it is complete, period. I hope all of you who agree with the city and yourselves personally not living up to your promises are embarrassed by sitting up here tonight. You should be. A deal's a deal, period.
Thank you. Anybody else? Come on up. Thank you.
Good evening. Debbie Yu, Avon Lake. I'd like to also, I agree with Mr. Orlowski's comments that were made here. I want to just reiterate, I understand I want to make a respond to the comment regarding the emergency suspension of rules. I understand that someone from Planning Commission after the meeting, after the committee meeting, there's some sort of a recommendation that's made to council. However, council is not, you're elected to not rubber stamp what others who are not elected do. So in other words, even though, someone from Planning Commission or someone from one of the staff within the city believes that there should be an emergency suspension of rules, it does not mean that council needs to abide by that. Council should independently weigh the particular request. And so with that, I request that, again, that the emergency suspension of rules not be approved. And also I ask that this council not approve the final plan pending the installation of the gate. And I want to take you through my thought process and actually point to various aspects of the plat and of the ordinance that has already been approved. So in the final plat, on page 2, under project analysis, the third paragraph indicates that a temporary traffic barrier was installed, which is true. There's a jersey barrier, concrete barrier there with some cones. Now, this is not the same gate that's referenced and promised in the memorandum of understanding that was adopted by this council under ordinance 24-148. I'm sorry, 24-158. In the memorandum of understanding on page 1, paragraph 3, it indicates specifically that the city shall be responsible for the installation of the gate, which is capitalized, within 30 days of the completion of the connecting roads. And that particular paragraph also indicates that Pulte has agreed to provide $15,000 funding towards the cost of the gate. Pulte has not rejected any sort of requests. It's my understanding that council hasn't requested it from Pulte at this point. So as evidenced by my exhibit that was introduced at the May 27th, 2025 council meeting, I had provided a photograph dated on April 15th of 2025, evidencing the fact that the road has been connected. 83 days have now gone by without a gate. That is well past the 30 days that was promised under the memorandum of understanding, which again indicates that the city shall, not may, shall be responsible for the installation of the gate. And so therefore, this is similar to my comments in the past, and I repeat them simply because, again, my neighbors and I are not feeling heard in terms of our concerns, and we are feeling that that our concerns are being marginalized and ignored. And so therefore I would ask council to please abide by the memorandum of understanding, install the permanent gate at that location as requested and promised under the MOU, and to please hear the concerns of my neighbors and of my concerns. And these are also, of course, your constituents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else? Any topic? Seeing none? Okay, we will move on then.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I think that we could address a little bit about the gate. We did discuss it at
Mr.
the
Zuber, go ahead.
Finance Committee meeting. The mayor gave us some cost of, now these were estimates, and Mayor, I think you may want to go into a little bit more detail on it. But a chain link or a chain would be $3,700. Manual gate that you would just push open and lock would be $7,400. And he felt that an automatic gate would be in excess of $100,000. So I think, Mayor, you may want to talk a little bit more about that.
Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
So we are in the process of gathering additional information. John Liskovic's been working on this. So a chain concept across that area, again, $3,700 approximately. And that includes the labor of our Public Works Department doing the work. Option number 2, which is a manual gate, which would be a gate which would rotate in front and be a pipe construction. We have an estimate of $7,400. That may not be 100% complete, but it'll be in that ballpark. Option 3, the automated gate, that takes a little bit more time to get. We're still waiting on contractors to get back to us, but we're at $40,000 now, and we have a lot more to add to that one. So that cost is going to go up considerably from there. So those are the 3 cost factors that we have right now.
Mr. Mayor, would you elaborate just a little bit on the last option, that it's not just a gate, there's also electricity, there's also about the equipment that we need to put into our vehicles?
So an automated gate would rely on what we currently have in place in the city, which is the Pathmaster system. Each of our public safety vehicles have a transponder on them, and they would automatically open a gate on any of our HOAs. So that's currently in place in our HOA, our private gates that we have in the city. So we would use the same concept so that we're the same. So each one of our vehicles would be able to open that. We would have to add to that Public Works for maintenance of the roadway and plowing and salting. So that would be a cost. And John, correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have that included 100% yet. And then also, there would be engineering involved, there would be electrical involved. We're waiting on First Energy to give us an estimate for that part of it. And then, of course, we have the gate itself, and all that work would be contracted out due to the more sophisticated and time nature of that one.
Mr. Liskovic, anything else you want to add?
I think the mayor covered it pretty well, but to his point, safety services, police and fire already have the transponder units in their vehicles, but for purposes of this project, we've figured in just retrofitting a couple vehicles for service because it would become extremely cost prohibitive to do every vehicle that would go through there. But it does provide or does pose a cost to the overall project for that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Ms. Gentry?
My understanding is that this MOU was a temporary solution until we got the results of the traffic impact study. Do we have a date on when those results will be known?
Mr. Mayor?
So we're having a meeting, make sure I get the right date. I believe it's the 17th.
Friday?
11th?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Friday the 11th, Mayor.
Fusing that with a different, yeah. So this Friday, the 11th, we have a meeting with Trans Systems, and they're going to provide us the raw data, and they're going to provide us with how they're going to interpret that data. I think Mr. Shamir and Mr. Zuber will be attending that meeting. Is that correct? And a couple of members from Hanford will also be attending that. I don't know who will represent, but we're happy to have you. So that's when the meeting will take place. Their timetable originally was 4 months, I believe, which would put us, I believe, into late August for completion of that work. Might be delayed slightly, but so probably into early September if I had to guess, but I don't quote me on that. We would have the results, at which time it would come back. They'd make a presentation to council, and then council would have to make the determination on how they want to move forward after the data is presented.
Ms. Gentry, any further
And
questions?
so what we're looking at is if we were to go with this auto solution, we would be looking to put that in place. We probably wouldn't even have it in place before we got the answer of whether or not we need to put anything to control traffic in that location. Is that correct?
That's very likely. If you were to go with the temporary solution now as a automated gate, it would probably not get done before the data and the report came back.
Thank you.
Mr. Shamir, I saw your hand up.
I guess the issue that I've got is with the emergency passage of this ordinance is that we have a meeting on Friday with residents who have concerns and the company that's doing the assessment. So my understanding was that we would wait until that meeting took place before we pass this. And this is my concern. This is my concern is we could have that meeting and people can understand the situation. There are answers that they're looking for. At least they could get those answers, and from there, we could pass it the following Monday. So that's where I was. Thank you.
So just so we're clear, we're talking about a public street, correct? That is going from one subdivision through another one. And there's two questions on the table, I believe, if I heard it correctly. The first question has to do with should we or should we not be passing, by suspension of the rule emergency passage, a subdivision that's to the east that has not requested the gate. And I think the second question is the gate, should that question be before council and on the table before we pass the subdivision? So that brings a third question, and that would be, in HOAs, homeowners associations, remember you have gated communities, and I have 7 of the 8. Mr. Cause has 1 in his ward. The homeowners association pays for the maintenance and for the electricity of the gate. Since this is on a public street, and if you don't have a homeowners association that would be at the location of where the gate is, your property ends prior to where the gate would be going into. And the new subdivision, they have their location, right? Who's going to be paying for the maintenance of this and the electricity of it?
The city.
Okay. Mr. Shamir?
I just want to be clear. My question really does not pertain to the gate. The gate is a function of what the study shows. It may be a gate, it may not be a gate. I think my comment with respect to the emergency passage is more getting the traffic impact assessment component, which should have been done much earlier, completed, at least if not completed, with those clarifications that have bothered many answered, and then we move on to the passage. Because, there's been issues with dates of data collection. There has been issues with respect to the periods of data collection where schools were actually out, where bike week started. So these are answers that I think residents within that area are concerned with, and they've got legitimate questions that they want to ask. And on Friday, those questions will be asked and hopefully answered. And with respect to this, the emergency passage for me is not related to the gate. It's related specifically to the study and the questions that have to be answered. Thank you.
Mr. Shamir, you realize this is not the improvement plan, right? This is the final plat, which is the only reason you have a final plat is to say that the monies have been paid for the grading, for all of the other, the tap-in fees, and that the engineer is satisfied that what was put in for stormwater, utilities, and the rest of it's done. This is not the improvement. The TIA has nothing to do with the final plat. The final plat is a financial tool so that those people who want to buy and build there are able to be sold the property by the builder. I would like to have the law director comment.
That's correct, what you said.
It has nothing to do with the TIA. Yes, sir, Mr. Shamir.
I fully understand, but I can tell you that many of the residents along that corridor, whether Liberty Rose or elsewhere, they feel like that once an ordinance is passed, the taxes are collected, their issues go by the wayside and they're not heard. So that is the function and the reason that they feel like that if they are not heard now, they will not be heard in the future. Thank you.
So then all of your residents that are going to be moving into those new homes, they have to wait on their mortgage closures and transfers. Is that what you're saying? Until after the TIA?
Nope, I didn't say until after the TIA, Madam President.
But that's what the final plat is all about.
No, I said
It's a
until the
transfer.
following week where the questions have been answered. So it's by Monday, not this Monday, a week from today.
Mr. Cos?
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. Because we're on public input, we had a resident that walked in during the discussion, and I don't know if, because we're still on public input, if you wanted to make that announcement again, if anybody wants to speak.
Absolutely, thank you. Thank you. Yes, would somebody else like to come up and speak on any topic? Come on up.
I ran here from Blesserfield.
I'm glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm Christina Malenkamp, and I live on Treeside Lane in Avon Lake. And I just wanted to mention on the gate that there are a lot of residents of Bridgeside who are very much against the gate and have watched a lot of development go up. And we have been looking at this stub that is a public road paid for by public taxes that should not be gated off. And a lot of us are just learning that this has been an issue and didn't know that this was up for discussion at all. And we feel very sort of backhanded by it, and we feel very much against the gate for public safety, for the fact that we were looking for some traffic relief when cars come speeding down the streets every day, and we would like a little bit less traffic on our roads too. I don't think that only the folks who live on that street should have a say in whether a gate goes in there.
And just to let you know that we hear you, many of us received multiple letters today from people from Treeside, from Bridgeside, from Hunt, from all over the area with a similar comment.
Good, good. Thank you.
Anybody else? Mr. Zuber?
Yeah, I have a question about the meeting on Friday. This is the first I've heard of that meeting. That I was supposed to come to this meeting, where it was supposed to be.
Should have been copied on the emails.
No,
and-
I think you just misspoke, Mr. Mayor. You didn't mention me in that. I'm at the meeting, and I think you just misspoke and said.
Okay.
Oh, I
said
see.
Mr. Zuber.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Thank you, because I
much
was
simpler than
little
that.
concerned there about.
That's why
the-
you
the meeting.
didn't get it.
Yeah, that's why I didn't get it. Thank you.
My
Mr.
apologies. Sorry about
Mr.
that.
Smith, your hand's up.
Yeah, thank you. In my view, the traffic impact study is for that entire quadrant of the city. It is independent, I believe, of the subdivision that's up for discussion tonight and up for passage. It's to make a determination of whether or not there should be the very expensive gate put at this at the end of Hanford or not. So I'm waiting for that traffic study to happen. But I just view them as two separate and independent processes that are going on. We do have an MOU that says until the traffic study is done, which again is for an entire area, not just, the traffic study is not just done for Hanford Boulevard, it's for that entire quadrant down there. That will have a barrier of some point, a gate, I guess, has been the terminology used. But, so I would hope that everybody can look at this as a separate and independent thing so that we can move the plat forward so that people can start buying the houses and the properties there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. And it's really, it's for more than just that area. It's also, I mean, it's also for knowing what the load is. Does there need to be a light at the end of one of those streets? Does the timing need to be changed on the corner of Walker and Lear? I mean, there's a lot more to the study than just this one area. You had your hand up again, yes.
Yeah, I see that Mr. Orlowski would like to come back. I don't have any issue if he comes back up to the microphone again, unless the council objects to that.
If, Mr. Orlowski, could you hold up just a moment, please? Could you wait just a moment, sir? Okay. Ms. Gentry, your hand was up.
Yes, so Mr. Smith, could you explain the completion of the road? You had mentioned that that was actually tied to the final plat. Could you clarify?
Yeah, to me, the road is not completed until the final plat is recorded and it's at the county. And you can see by the pictures that Ms. Yu provided us that there's a big barrier there. So there's no ability to drive through that particular area right now. I think once the plat's approved, I think then you have, at least in my opinion, the full completion of the roadway between the two subdivisions. So that's how I view that. I mean, I could be wrong. I've been wrong lots of times in my life. But that, Mr. Zuber, no need to laugh. So that's how I view it. I think that that's the correct way to look at it, is that once the plat's approved and it's recorded, that now we have the connected streets. Thank you.
Thank you. Did he answer your question? Okay. Mr. Orlowski, the floor is yours. The floor is yours, sir.
It's Paul Orlowski, Hanford Boulevard. One of the comments that you guys talked about had to do with the costs that we might be incurring on the city. Like we're trying to get over on something for plowing or electricity or this or that or the other thing. We've been mowing, planting trees, and watering that boulevard at our cost, not the city's cost, it's the city street, for over 20 years. Just so that we're not trying to get off on something here. This is all at our cost. All the water, like I say, the trees, we replanted some trees last year, the mowing and everything is all done at our cost. So just a point of clarity, that's all.
The center of the boulevard, right, sir?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else on any topic? Any topic? I'm going around the corner here. All right. Now we're going to move on to an adjournment. Okay? And CCM is finished. And what we're going to do in just a minute, we're going to get organized, and then we're going to go into the special. This is a special meeting of July the 7th. Could we please all rise while Mr. Arnold leads us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Ms. Rossmarin, please read the roll call.
Mr. Arnold.
Here.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Here.
Ms. Gentry.
Here.
Mr. Koss.
Here.
Mr. Shamir.
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
Mr. Zuber.
Here.
Mayor Spetzel.
Here.
Law Director Ebert.
Here.
Finance Director Crossy.
Here.
Public Works Director Liskovic.
Here.
Thank you. At this point in time, we're going to have audience participation just on the items that are on this topic. Does anybody want to come forward for 3 minutes? Seeing no one come forward. Oh, we do have someone? Okay.
Hi, W. Avon Lake. I want to mention there was some discussion that the final plat does not discuss the connection of the road. And it does, because under the actual plat that was submitted under, as I indicated, under project analysis, third paragraph, it does talk about this temporary traffic barrier. So it is contemplating that particular connection. In addition, in terms of whether or not the MOU was a temporary fix, I want to also remind this council that ordinance 24-158 drafted by this council indicates in, let me see, 1, 2, 3, in the 5th paragraph, that whereas the city desires that a gate be installed on the connecting roadway into Portside development that will only allow travel onto this connecting roadway for emergency vehicles. That was drafted by the city, by council, and also indicates the city's intent. So I wanted to bring those to this council's attention. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come forward on any topic that's on tonight's agenda? Okay, seeing none, we're going to move on then to legislation. Second readings, ordinance number 25-128. Mrs. Rossmarin, read by title only.
An ordinance approving the final plat for Portside Townhouse subdivision and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. I move for the suspension of the rule requiring 3 readings, considering ordinance number 25-128 as an emergency measure.
Mrs. Rossmarin?
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh.
Yes.
Ms. Gentry.
Yes.
Mr. Koss.
Yes.
Mr. Shamir.
No.
Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Zuber.
No.
Okay, it's 5-2, so it has passed suspension of the rule. Mr. Smith?
Thank you. I move for the passage of ordinance number 25-128.
In discussion, sir.
Thank you. This is the ordinance approving the final plat for Portside Townhouse. subdivision. It's set forth as an emergency so that various lots and mortgages can be done, including the ability for us to tax and get these lots sold to people.
Any further discussion? Mr. Cos?
Yeah, thank you. So I will be voting yes on this tonight, but I want to state that there's been a discussion about the gate in the memorandum and how it could be tied in with this. I look at these, as has been mentioned, as really two separate measures. And for the record, I think that between the three quotes that we received earlier tonight with the three different types of gates or barriers that can be put up, that we should move on that $7,400 one yesterday, if we could. Get that up, get that installed. It's paid for by Pulte. Get that up, get that installed. I'm assuming that was the one that I had seen earlier that looked sort of like you would expect a gate to look, a temporary gate, which would fall into line with what the MOU says. Timeline on this. If we go through the process and we get the raw data back this week, by the time we come back from council, we probably schedule the meeting for them to come in and make a presentation to council. It's probably in September, providing on what the feeling is from the city council. It's probably gonna have to go to the safety committee. Everything else has been handled out of that committee. If there's a desire to put a permanent gate in there or to keep it gated, that's gonna require legislation. That's gonna be 3 readings. So this easily could get pushed into October, November, even December, depending on the timing of this. So if there's $15,000 to put an option out there and get it put in place and it's paid for by Pulte, I say that we move on it sooner than later, because it could be another 4 to 5 months realistically before there's a decision from City Council. So I look at these as 2 different things. I'm going to support this tonight, but also think that we should take Pulte up on their offer and put that temporary gate in there while we await the overall decision and data from Trans Systems and City Council. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion on this particular item of 18 fee simple townhouses? Seeing no further discussion, Mrs. Ross Marin?
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh?
Yes.
Ms. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Koss,
Yes.
Mr. Shamir?
No.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Zuber?
Yes.
Thank you. It has passed. Okay, ordinance number 25-134. Mrs. Ross Marin, by title only.
An ordinance imposing a moratorium on the use of residential property for short-term rental and declaring an emergency.
Mr. Cos?
I move to suspend the council rule requiring 3 readings.
Mrs. Ross Marin, the roll?
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh?
Yes.
Ms. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Koss,
Yes.
Mr. Shamir?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Zuber?
Yes.
Thank you. It is passed. Mr. Cos?
I move for passage of ordinance number 25-130R.
In discussion.
Yes, in discussion. This is the second reading on this that obviously is up for a vote tonight. This is on a temporary moratorium on new short-term rentals in the city. This does not affect any short-term rental that is currently in operation. This would be for 90 days or the passage of a short-term rental ordinance. When this was introduced a couple of weeks ago, it was a 6-month. So after discussion with the ad hoc committee and all of the good discussions and points that came out of that meeting, one of the things that we decided upon was that this should be much shorter, and it puts really lights a fire under the council and the administration to move quickly on this to get it resolved. So hopefully we don't see the end of this 90 days and we have a piece of legislation for a first reading or close to it by the time we come back from break. And after 3 readings, we'll have a good solid piece of legislation in place for short-term rentals. But this bides time. This again does not affect new, or this only affects new short-term rentals and nothing in existence. And I believe those are the only major changes to it from the past discussion. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Cos on this topic? When it first came up, I can tell you, I'm not in favor of moratoriums. And especially when when it went for 6 months, because we're only talking about 17 to 20 that are in existence. This wouldn't even affect those. This would just be new ones, and people could be purchasing property and coming out with, now, they thought they were going to have an Airbnb or another short-term rental, and they wouldn't be able to. But with the movement that we've seen with the ordinance going into place, I attended the meeting that Mr. Arnold did such a good job of coordinating, facilitating the ad hoc committee. There were so many inputs from everyone, and it's going to end up being a really good piece of legislation. I am going to go ahead and support this moratorium. Okay, Mrs. Rossmarin?
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh?
Yes.
Ms. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Koss,
Yes.
Mr. Shamir?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Zuber?
Thank you, that too has passed. At this point in time, there's a need for an executive session. Mr. Kaz?
I move that in compliance with Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22G8, council will adjourn to executive session to discuss confidential business information for economic development assistance.
Thank you. And to outline who would all be here, there would be all the elected officials, including Department Head Ted Esborn, and who else would you, and, oh, yes, and Ms. Crosby, and who else would you like to have here?
Representatives from Squires Patent Laws.
And also our law director. Okay, thank you. Mrs. Rossmarin?
Mr. Arnold?
Yes.
Mrs. Fenderbosh?
Yes.
Ms. Gentry?
Yes.
Mr. Koss,
Yes.
Mr. Shamir?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Zuber?
Thank you. We're going to clear the room, and we're going to be going into executive session. There won't be any business that will be voted on. Thank you.